Hey everyone. So in this video, we are going to learn how to make dice on Tinkercad. And we're going to start off by learning a few things about Tinkercad. Over here on this right-hand side, you have a bunch of different shapes that you can choose from. I mean, there's a bunch of different things that you can do. And this right here is your work plane. Now you could do a couple of different things to move around your work plane. You can grab this little box over here and move things around like that. I'm going to go back to home. Or if you have a mouse, you can, or even just a mouse pad, you can right click and move things around like this as well. So that's how you kind of navigate around your workspace. So I'm going to go ahead and pull in a shape, and we're going to start to turn it into a die. Now, for this particular project, if you're watching this for your statistics class, for this project, you are required to make a die that is not a cube. You want it to be something other than a cube. So I'm going to pull this red box in, and right there it is. It pulls the box in, and it gives you some dimensions. You can click off to the side, and the dimensions go away. And once again, you can right click and kind of look at the die from different angles. So if we zoom in a little bit, you can use two fingers or you can use the little scroll bar on your mouse and you can zoom in and you can zoom out. But what I want to do with this die is select it. And then if I click on these corners, I can change the dimensions. Now I could grab any one of these corners or one of the edges, and I could drag the edge. So I could drag the edge this way. I can drag a corner and drag in two directions at the same time, and it changes the size. Or I could just click on the number and type in the size that I want. So let's say I want this to be 35 by 30, and there we go. Now, the other thing that you can do to change your shape a little bit is you can grab this box, this white square at the top, and you can make it taller or you can make it shorter. So we're going to do that. Just move it up and down. I think I'll just go ahead and put it at about right here, 17. So right now I have a six-sided box, more or less, but it is not a traditional cube. Now, I will tell you this. One of the things that I like to do when you highlight your shape, you can come over here to this circle, this red circle, click on it, and you can change the color of it. You can change it to whatever color you like. Now, I like the lighter colors. I like to work with the lighter colors like yellow because I think it's just, for me, a little bit easier to see than the red. So here is my die. It is not a traditional cube, and I'm going to start to put numbers on this die. So if you scroll down on the right-hand side, you will see this particular tool that says text. And if we grab it and drag it in, it gives us some text. Now, if you want this, see how this little box that pops up is kind of in the way. I don't want it to be there. You can click on this little arrow and it minimizes the size of that. So there's our text. Now, I don't want it to say text. I want it to say the number 1. So I'm going to make this box bigger. And right here in this spot where it says text, I'm going to change this to the number 1. There we go. Now I have changed the text to 1. If I click on it, it highlights it again. I'm going to minimize this window right here because I don't want to see the whole thing. And I can move this number around wherever I want to move it. Now, if I try to move it onto the die, I've got a little bit of a problem. It goes inside of my box here. I want it to be on top. So how do I do that? Well, there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. If you click on the number 1, and I'm going to change the color of it to light blue because it's a little bit easier for me to see. You can grab this black cone looking thing or this black triangle, grab it, and you can raise your object up and down. Now that's one way that you can move this. So if I move it up, and then I can grab it and move it over and put it where I think I need to put it on my die. I'm going to try to put it right in the middle so I can move it right about there. Now, I have a little bit of an issue with this because if you maneuver your camera, you can see that the blue number is hovering above the yellow box, and I don't want that to happen. So I want this blue number to be right on the top of this yellow box. So how do I get it there? Well, I'm going to go ahead and delete. And all I have to do is highlight and hit delete. I'm going to delete that number and I'm going to remake it. And here's what I want. My workspace right now is this blue plane, but I want to change my workspace to the plane that is on this, that is right on the top of this box. So if I grab this tool over here that says Workplane tool, there it is, grab it and drag it. If you notice, I'm still dragging. I can change my workplane to any one of these sides of the box. So I want it to be this side on top. I let go of my mouse. And now my workplane is the top of that box. This is where we want to pull in the text. And anything that I pull in is going to be on this particular work plane. Like you can see, it's right on that plane. I'm going to highlight text, open up this window, change this to the number 1. I'm also going to change the color because I like the lighter color. And now I'm going to move this to the center of my box. Now let's say I want it to be right in the center, because right now it's not really in the middle. And I want it to be in the middle. There's a couple of different ways that I can do this, but here's the best way. I'm going to highlight by clicking off to the side and dragging. I'm going to highlight both the number and the yellow box. So now I have highlighted the yellow box and the blue number. I'm going to come up to this tool right here, which says Align. I click on it, and now I can align these two things with each other. I'm going to click, I want this number 1 to be right in the center. So I'm going to click right here on this dot, which is in the middle. I believe that's what I want to click on. Let's see. Yeah. Click on it, and it moves the number 1 right into the center. And then I'm also going to click on this dot, and it will move. There it is, the number 1 right in the center of the box. So now my number 1 is centered in the middle of that yellow part of the box. All right, I don't want to move anything anymore, so I'm going to click on this Align tool again, and it goes away. Okay, well, I'm still not quite finished, because if I'm making a die, I don't want this number to be sticking out of my box. I want this number to be indented into the box. So this is how we're going to indent the number into the box. I'm still working on this orange plane because I want that to be like my ground 0, my level 0. I'm going to highlight the number 1, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to change it, click over here on this button and change it into a hole. So I click on it, and now you can see, I'll zoom in a little bit. Now you can see that the number itself is clear and you can see through it. Well, I want this number to be dropped down into my box a little bit. So I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to drop it down a good distance that you want your numbers or your dots. I'll show you how to do dots here in a little bit. A good distance into your box would be 2 or 3 millimeters. So everything, the default down here, you can see it says every time you move something, it's going to move it in jumps of 1 millimeter. So now I have dropped. I'm going to undo. I'm going to hit the undo button here and move that number 1 back up and show you that again. So I highlight the number 1. I grab the black triangle and I'm going to move it down 1, 2 millimeters. Let go. And now the number is pressing down into the yellow box. Well, I still have the number there. I don't want to see that number. I want to see the indentation. So I'm going to change my work plane, grab the work plane, and go back to just the regular blue work plane. But I want to combine this number 1 and the yellow box. So I'm going to click and drag. All I have to do is highlight part of the yellow box and part of the number. I don't have to highlight the whole thing. I can just highlight parts of both of them, let go, and both of those are selected. So the number and the yellow box are now selected. And I'm going to go up here to this tool that says group. I'm going to click on group, and there's the number 1. It is now indented into my box. And that is the number 1 on my die. Now I'm going to do another one. In fact, I'm going to put all 6 numbers on this. I'm going to do it fairly quickly. So I'm going to put the number 2 over on, I'll put it right here on this side. I'll put the number 2 on this side. So I'm going to grab my plane, and I want my work plane to be right here. I'm going to pull in, if I manipulate my camera just a little bit, okay, I'm going to pull in the text tool, and I don't want it to say text. I want it to say the number 2. So there we go. I'm going to change this to for now, I'm going to change it to a different color. All right, I want to take this, and I can hold down the shift key and select the yellow box. So I can either click and drag, or I can click the 2, hold down the shift key, and click the yellow box and select both. And I want to align them. I want to align the 2 in the middle, and I want to align the 2 in the middle of the box, which right now it's not giving me the center that I want it, where I want it to be. I want it to move down even further. So I think what I have to do is select the box first, then the number 2, then hit align. No, it's still not giving it to me. So what I'm going to do is just click on the 2, and I'm going to use my arrow buttons to put it down close to where I want it. Now, if you notice, I've got a little bit of a problem. The number 2 is too big. So I'm going to rotate it. If I click on the number 2, there's this rotational tool right here. I just have to, you can see the arrows, and it's kind of, it just looks like a little curve. I can click on that, and I can turn the number 2 so that, and I can turn it by 15 degrees every time, or I guess that's not 15 degrees. What's that? 22.5 degrees every time. Or I can go 1 degree at a time. Well, I want to go 90 degrees. Put it right there. And now the number 2, that looks pretty good. But let me select both and align it right in the middle. So here we go. The number 2, if I click here, now it's in the middle of the side. And if I click there, it's right in the center of that side. Okay, so now I have to turn the 2 into a hole. And I am going to move the 2, grab this. I'm going to grab this black triangle and move it 1, 2 millimeters into the shape, into the box. Click off to the side, click and drag to get both the number 2 and the yellow box. Hit the group button. And now the number 2 is indented into my box. Let's get a better look at it by changing my work plane to the original default. So I've got a number 1, I've got a number 2. Let's put the number 3 over on this side. By the way, if you hit the shift button and hold it down and right click and drag, it will move the entire plane wherever you want it. So I'm going to move it over here. All right, here comes the number 3. My work plane is right there. Bring in my text, change it to the number 3. Oops, try that again. Change it to the number 3. I'm going to change the color to a light blue. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. I'm going to click and drag it close to where I want it. And then I will click and drag both to select the number and the yellow box. Click the Align button to put it in the middle from left to right, and put the 3 in the center up and down. And now I know it's in the center of my die. I'm going to change the 3 into a hole, move it 2 centimeters, or I'm sorry, millimeters, 2 millimeters into the yellow box. Select both. I'll tell you what, I'll change my work plane for a second so it's a little bit easier to see. Select the yellow box and the number 3, group it, and there it is. You can see the number 3 is now indented into my box. Okay, here we go. Let's do the next one. Let's do the 4, the 5, and the 6. I'm going to go even faster. Work plane, right there. Bring in my text. Change it to the number 4. I like to change the color to a lighter color. I'm going to try to center it as best I can. This needs to be rotated. Rotate, rotate. Oh, let's try that again. I want to rotate the number 4. There we go, 90 degrees. But that number 4 is still pretty big. I want to change the size of that. So I'm going to highlight the 4, and I'm going to, I can move it around. I can change it like this. I'm going to undo that. Or if I hit the shift key, it changes in scale. Everything changes in scale. I think I like that size. That size looks good to me. Now, it's not in the center. It's a little bit off to the side. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit off to the side. I'm going to highlight the yellow box and the number 4, hit the Align button, align it in the center up and down, align it in the center left to right, change the number 4 into a hole, rotate a little bit so that I can see this black triangle, move it in 1, 2, and then go back to my original work plane, select the yellow box and the number 4, group it, and there's the number 4, just like that. All right, got to do the 5. I'm going to put the 5 over on this side. So here we go. Work plane, bring in the text, change it to the number 6. I'm going to go ahead and change it to a hole right away, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. I want to center this, so I'm going to highlight the number in the yellow box, hit the Align button, center it up and down, center it left and right, and there it's in the center. I'm then going to move the number 1, 2 millimeters into the yellow box, highlight everything, hit group, and there's the number 6. I think I skipped over the number 5, didn't I? Yep. So I'm going to put the number 5 on the back. All right. So I'm going to change my work plane again. Go here. It's a little bit trickier to do this on the bottom, but you can do it. So my work plane is right there. Pull in the text. Change the text to the number 5. I'm going to go ahead and make it a hole right away. Highlight the yellow box and the number 5. Align everything in the center. There we go. Number 5 is right in the middle of my yellow box. I now am going to move the box 1 to 2 millimeters into the yellow box. highlight the box and the number, group, and there's the number 5 indented into my die. I'm going to go back to my original work plane, and there is my die. There it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all numbers there. Now I'm going to show this to you again, and I know the video might, at this point in time, if you want, you could go ahead and do this. But what if I didn't want a box like that? So I'm going to move the whole thing. I'm going to move that die off to the side. Let's say I wanted to make, let's see, a pyramid. So I'm going to bring a pyramid in here. And remember, I need 6 sides. Well, right now, this pyramid has 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the bottom 5 sides. I want it to be 6 sides. So if I highlight it, over here where this window pops up, it says sides. Well, right now it has 4. That means 4 like vertical sides, if you will. I want to change this to 5. So now this pyramid, whoops, get a little bit of lag. There we go. Let's go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the bottom 6 sides. All right, let's make this pyramid just a little bit bigger. I like the shape of it, so I'm going to hit the Shift key, hold it down. I'm going to grab this vertex, and I'm going to drag it up a little bit to make this a little bit bigger to work with. Let's make it 45. I'll click on this right here, make it 45. There we go. All right, so now it's time to put the numbers on all the sides. Here we go. Take this. There's my work plane. I'm going to bring in my text, change it to the number 1, turn it into a whole. I'm going to click and select both, hit the align button, and I want to align here and align here. Now, this is where we run into some issues. It's not really where I want it. I really don't like where it's at on that face, on that triangular face. So I'm going to select the 1 and use my arrow key, just bring it down a little bit to right about there. I like the way that looks right there. I like that spot. So now I can select the number 1, select this little black triangle, move it 1, 2 millimeters into the shape, select the pyramid and the number, hit group, and there's the number 1 indented into my shape. Okay. All right. I'm going to go pretty quickly here and do the rest of the numbers. Here we go. Number 2. Pull it in, change the text, turn it into a whole. I do want it to be centered, so I will center it here, but then I will arrow it down, move it 2 millimeters, 1, 2, whoops, right there, 1, 2 into my pyramid, select both, group them. There's the number 2. All right. Oh, that didn't, oh, there it is. There it worked. Okay. Hit the Shift button. Actually, go back to my original work plane. Hit the Shift button and kind of right click to maneuver this a little bit. Here's my new work plane. Bring in my text. Number 3, turn it into a whole. Select both. Align this in the center. And then I want to get down just a little bit. I think right about there looks good. And once again, highlight the 3 and move it 1, 2 millimeters in. Highlight, click and drag the pyramid and the number. Hit group. Click off the side, and there's my number 3. All right, let's go with number 4. Put the 4 right here. Text. Change it to a 4. Change it to a whole. Highlight both. Align them. I want it to be in the center. Okay, move the 4 down just a little bit. Highlight both. And I almost forgot. I want to move the 4 2 millimeters into the die. Now highlight both and hit group. Let's go to the number 5. Here's my new work plane. Bring in the text. Change it to the number 5. Change it into a hole. Highlight both. Align right there. And then I want the 5 to be just a little bit lower. Right there looks good. Move the 5, indent it 2 millimeters in. Select both. Group. And sometimes it's a little bit slow. Let me change my work plane. It should pop in here in just a second, that 5. Yeah. Sometimes if you get to this point and you have it kind of lags on you, you can always just hit the refresh button. And it should refresh. And when it comes back, hopefully, there we go. There's the 5. Ooh, now that 5 is a little bit lower. When I look at the 5 and I look at the 2, the 1, the 1 is a little bit higher than I want it to be. So I can select this and hit ungroup. And if I hit ungroup multiple times, it'll just basically go back. So if I want to move this 1 down a little bit, I have to get to the right work plane, select the number 1, move it down. I think that's a little bit better. Now I want to group it again, highlight everything and group it. So it is possible to go backwards and hit ungroup so that you can move your indentations around a little bit. Now the only other thing I need is a 6. And I need to put that on the bottom, but I'm going to do it like this. Instead of putting the number 6, let's say I wanted to put some dots instead of the number 6. Well, the best way to make a dot is to bring in a sphere. Now that sphere is way too big. So I'm going to change the size of that sphere. If I click right here, I want it to be, instead of 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters, I'm going to make it 5 by 5. And then I want the height of it to also be 5. And now I have a smaller sphere. So I want this just like the number. I'll zoom in a little bit. I want to change it into a hole. And then I'm going to move it 1, 2. In this case, I think I'm going to go, I really want to go 2.5 because I know that the diameter of this sphere is 5. So I want to move this 1, but I'm going to change this to negative 2.5. Hit enter. And that puts half of the sphere inside the yellow pyramid and half of the sphere outside. Now, the nice thing about this is I want 6 of these. So I'm going to put this, I'm going to move it. I think I'm going to move it to right about there. But I want to duplicate this sphere. I don't have to pull in another one and do it again, and another one and do it again. So let me hit undo to get rid of those 2. I can highlight the sphere and use this up here that says duplicate. So if I click on duplicate, it just made another one. So if I grab it and drag, oops, I didn't grab it the way that I wanted to. I can either grab it and drag it, like, I got to be careful not to grab one of the sides. There it is. I can grab it and drag it right over to here. And then I can hit duplicate again. Now when I duplicate the second time, I can move it using the arrow keys, the arrow buttons if I want to, kind of like that spot. I'm going to duplicate it again. Oh, and this time it moved it in relationship to this other one. So let's duplicate this one. Move it down and move it over a little bit. Let's try to get it. I want to try to align these. I'll do that in just a second. And so then duplicate it again. Okay, I want these dots to be in line. So I'm going to select that dot, hit the shift key, and select that dot. Hit the align button. And I want them to be like, it's not really where I want them, but I could put them like that. And then I'm going to select these two, align them, and maybe put it like that. Select these two, hit the align button, and do it like that. And there we go. There's my 6 dots. I kind of like the way that looks. All right, but now I have to group my 6 dots with my yellow pyramid. So I click off to the side, drag to make sure that I highlight all of it, hit the group button, and now I have 6 dots indented into my shape. And that's about it. So you can make your die any shape that you want as long as it's not a cube and as long as you have 6 sides. Okay, you could do just about anything that you wanted as long as it has 6 sides and it's not a cube. So I could pull this cube in, and then I could pull this triangle in, and I could rotate this. I don't even know. It looks like a prism. There we go. And I could move this over. I want this to be on this plane. So I'm going to move this until that says 0. And I want to make it a little bit taller. So I want this. I want the green to be on the blue plane, but I also want it to be as tall as the red box. And I want to align these two. So let's select them both, hit align, and I want them to be, there we go, aligned with each other. Now, let's say I want this to be my die. So I'm going to click and drag, hit the group button, and now I have this strange looking shape, but it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the bottom 6 sides. And I could start at that point in time, I could start putting, well, I'm not going to put a dot there. Actually, I could put a dot there. Okay. Say 5, 5, 5. Let's move it. Let's move it over to the middle of this. Change it into a hole. Then let's move it down 2.5. So I want to click here and type -2.5. Moved it 2.5. I also want to align it right here. And I like where it's at right now. So there's my dot. Okay. Highlight the dot and that weird shape. Hit group. And there is my dot inside of my shape. Okay, it's indented into my shape. I think you can tell that it's indented into the shape there. Okay, and I could continue to do that. So hopefully this video will help you understand how to use some of these tools to help you make dice and how to indent your numbers or your dots into your different sides. And once you have your die, you're going to share that with your teacher, and hopefully they will 3D print it for you, and you'll be able to do a project with your irregular shaped die. Hopefully you understand this. If you have any questions, ask your teacher, and hopefully you have a great day.